Hey, welcome to a very patriotic episode of MLM Renegade. You guys, today we're going to talk about standing for something. So here's the million-dollar question. How are network marketers like us, who've tried everything their upline ever suggested to be successful, and yet still struggled, who grew up with technology and aren't stuck in the 20th century, how are we supposed to grow our downlines and our bank accounts, and yet still have time for real life? My name is J.R. McKee. Join me as we explore how to use 21st century learning and technology to grow our downlines and build lasting wealth. Simply put, this is MLM done different. Welcome to MLM Renegade. So today, guys, I've really had my heart touched recently by a number of different patriotic posts, and also just with the world as it is right now, it's kind of in this spot where we need to talk about standing up for things that you believe, standing up for the rights and the privileges that we enjoy. I am a proud American, and I make no bones about that. This time of year, this particular week is actually pretty exciting for all of North America, right? On the 1st of July is Canada Day, and obviously the 4th of July, we celebrate our American independence. And I think that we've lost some of it. So much has been, I remember in a presidential election, I don't want to get very political here, but in a presidential election, we talked about American exceptionalism and the people who took exception to that. And I'm a firm believer that I live, on the greatest continent in the world. Even my Canadian neighbors to the north enjoy so many of the same freedoms that we do here in the United States. And with 4th of July coming up, I wanted to think about this because this week, Nike announced that they pulled a shoe with a Betsy Ross flag on it. The Betsy Ross flag is one you've seen from the American Revolution. It's got a ring of stars that basically are indicative of the 13 original colonies. And they pulled this shoe and this flag because Colin Kaepernick, former NFL player and current social rights advocate, blowhard some might say, objected to it, and Nike kowtowed to that. And I got to thinking, I'm like, what are we willing to stand up for, and what are we willing to lay down for? In this case, Nike laid down so that they wouldn't anger a former athlete, and frankly, I think it's actually a big marketing stunt. But if you want to talk about that, you can email me. I'll be happy to tell you about it. But I was an ROTC cadet while I was in college. I spent a lot of time thinking about serving my country, and some of my best friends in the world still do exactly that, and I'm grateful for them, eternally grateful for them. I work with a guy right now who is a former Army, and great guy to work for. I'm surrounded by all these incredible people who have served our country and who do serve our country. And it makes me honored when I see them around. And I think too often we get caught up in our own little world. We get caught up in the things that ultimately don't matter. And there are many of these people who get caught up in other things. So for entrepreneurs, for people in business, for people in your life, what are you willing to stand up for? What are you willing to die for? This goes back to your why in a lot of ways. An incredible mentor of mine asked that exact question. What are you willing to die for? Who are you willing to die for? As the root of your why, of your individual why. And that idea is such that it gets ingrained, and I constantly find myself, especially if I'm driving in my truck and I have some quiet time, I think about these things and I take them to heart. I've spent Some of the books that I've read recently have really been heavily focused around military personnel. I read Extreme Ownership by Leif Babin and Jocko Willink, and that they're former Navy SEALs, and the things that they've done with their lives just astound me. And I realize that I have so much to be grateful for. And the why that I experience, the standing up for something, standing up for things that I believe, is so important. My son, I think I've mentioned, is about to leave actually for Canada, as a missionary, and he's going to be gone for 2 years, and he's going to be preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ to people in the Toronto area, and that's standing for something. I had the opportunity to do the same thing more than 20 years ago, and that opportunity to stand up and to plant my flag was so important to me. So in Russell Brunson's book, Expert Secrets, he talks about a character from ancient Americas called Captain Moroni. And Captain Moroni was a leader of these armies, and it said, so at one point, he took off his coat and kind of made it as a makeshift flag, and he wrote on it. And he wrote, "In memory of our God, our religion and freedom, and our peace, and our wives and our children." And he put the flag at the end of the pole, and he called it the Title of Liberty. And people saw it, and they rallied around it, and he became their leader. It was very, Mel Gibson in Braveheart sort of a moment. And I definitely recommend reading Expert Secrets for that and a lot of other great stories. But the point of it is, in memory of our God, our religion, our wives, and our children. If there isn't a better example of things to stand for, I don't know that it exists. In this time of history, there are people who will stand for things that I don't believe in. And I will stand for things that they don't believe in. In fact, in many cases, they are diametrically opposed to one another. And we both have our reasons. And frankly, both reasons are probably valid to the individual person. But that being said, the idea that you're willing to stand up for something that you believe is far more important than what you believe. Let me say that again. The idea that you're willing to stand up for what you believe is far more important than what you believe. You guys, at this point in life, in the world, we need to stand for things. We need to stand up for our rights as human beings. We need to stand up for our rights as entrepreneurs. We need to stand up for the opportunity that we have to create something without having it taken away from us. We have the right and the obligation to protect that for our children and for our children's children. You guys, at this point in time, at this July part of the year where we get to celebrate liberty, I want you guys to think about what you're willing to die for, what you are standing up for, and what you can share with the world that will help to make it a better place. This is a call to arms. This is a call to finally stand up for something that's bothered you and to tell other people about it. Because guess what? There are other people who it's bothered too. I guarantee it. This is a call to finally make of your life what you haven't been able to in the past. And when you do that, you can make life better for other people. I am an unabashed capitalist pig. Like you guys have probably seen, you may have seen pictures of me wearing t-shirts that said that. Steve Larson, one of my mentors, is a fantastic example of this. But he has a specific reason for it. He wants to get rich and give back. He wants to make a lot of money so that he can make a lot of other people's lives very, very good. And that is a worthy agenda, in my opinion. There may be others who disagree with it. But in the end, the idea is that you need to stand for something. Because if you won't stand for something, you'll lie down for anything. And when you will do that, you will lose that opportunity that you have, that freedom to become what you want to be and what you see yourself as. You guys, at this time of freedom and celebration, please stand up for something. Hey, thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe. And if you loved us, leave us an awesome review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you consume your podcasts. Now, if you'd like some free training for your team on how your recruiting efforts can be bettered and brought into the 21st century, go to podcast.mlmrenegade.com and get your copy of the Renegade Recruiting Kickstarter.